Producer Joe here from the Working Fans Podcast. And at the Working Fans Podcast, this is just a podcast that three lifelong fans created to have a place to talk comedy and pro wrestling. Now, our comedy podcast releases every Tuesday, while our wrestling podcast releases every Thursday. We release bonus episodes under the moniker Working Fans Presents every now and then. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, any major podcast provider. The important thing is just please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to us. Now, we have started a new thing. We are now on Amazon and Audible. So those episodes release every Monday. And that's kind of going through the archives and just releasing our old episodes into new areas. So if you want to live through the process with us again, take that journey with us again, you can find us over on Amazon and Audible. Now, if you can't get enough of us in the audio form, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/C/Working Fans Wrestling Pod, or just search Working Fans Podcast on YouTube. We have the whole archive is up there. And if you listen to the Working Fans Podcast, you are more than familiar with the 531. That is our signature segment where we take your top 5 lists on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. Now, guys, if you want to hear 3 guys talk shit about comedy, wrestling, life, anything, you will enjoy the Working Fans Podcast.
Everybody, it's the Combatcast with the man called Dave and Chevy, and we're on the heels of UFC 266. It's a fun card. We're going to break it down a little bit for you. Not too extensively. That's not really what we do, but we're going to talk about our thoughts on the fights and some potential matchmaking. And Chevy, I'm just going to start off, man. Let's start off with the main event. Let's work our way back. Volkanovski, Ortega. It's funny, like going into this, I picked Ortega, and I thought, it's a 3-person race in this featherweight division. It's not. It's a 2-person race. It's Holloway and Volkanovski until I see different. That being said, Ortega just showed me he's so game. He keeps learning, and he's just like he almost pulled it out a couple times. But it's one of those weird fights, right, where it was like it was competitive, it was entertaining, but we also really clearly knew who the winner was, too.
Yeah, there might have been some 10-8 rounds, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brian did almost win the fight. It was as close as he could have gotten to tapping him out.
Mm-hmm.
He said he heard him gargling, his super tight. The triangle and the guillotine.
Mm-hmm.
But, overall, yeah, Volkanovski dominated the fight. He looked great. Brian still looks like he is improving.
Yeah.
Stand-up still needs a little bit of work, obviously.
With the elite.
Yeah, his 2 losses are to the 2 champs,
Right.
So, I think maybe a switch of game plan. Also, like, don't stand with these guys. Like, go for some takedowns, but that's where his strength is. I think maybe go for that, but.
Yeah, force it.
And he knocked out Frank Edgar standing up too. So what do I know?
I think that's a good point. I mean, and hindsight 2020. Yeah, just trying to maybe get him down a little more because that's what he did. He forced a takedown, and that's what caused those scrambles and those potential things. But that was after he was already taking a little bit of a beating too.
Absolutely.
One thing too, I would comment. Volkanovski actually said too that at least with the guillotine choke, I know he said he actually almost blocked out. Like he saw a little color, and so he said it was close. So the champ himself admitted that it was almost lights out. So
yeah,
I think Volkanovski. Well, really, it's Holloway. I know Holloway's got the fight with Yair. I know Helwani just came out and said that they should just make that fight now because the timelines aren't going to match up, and Holloway deserves this. I don't think that's what's going to happen, though. I think, hey, good on Yair. He's another guy that keeps really improving. I always look at him as kind of like I don't know if it's on purpose, but he reminds me of the boxing model, where he's not super active, but he seems like he's just taking time off, constantly improving, and he's a completely different fighter when we see him. That being said, I'm not saying this is a tall task with Max Holloway, but I am interested in what we see. I think it'll be a fun fight. But that being said, Volkanovski, he's got to meet the winner of that fight, probably going to be Holloway. I think if Ortega, for his next fight, he should probably meet the loser of that fight, especially if it's Yair. With Holloway, I'm not so sure if I'm ready to see that fight again, but a Yair fight, I think that would be entertaining with him and Ortega.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm sure we'll make picks on the Holloway Yair fight when it gets closer, but right now I'm leaning towards Holloway just because he's never looked better than he has lately. You never know what you're going to get with Yair. He is I'm a big fan of his. He was my favorite fighter at one point just because his style is so exciting.
Yeah.
But I don't know where he's at mentally. He had that issue where they wanted to fight Zabit and he didn't want to fight Zabit or something, and he got cut up and then realized that he's not going to, get any more money or anything somewhere else. So came back to the UFC. He's inactive, which is to his detriment, but he is unique in his striking style and his ability to manage distance with his kicks. So we've seen Max be, subjected to those leg kicks, so Yair might do that. But anyway, whoever wins the fight, I agree with you. If it's Max, I don't want to see, or if Max loses, I don't want to see him fight Brian again until we see Brian's stand-up vastly improve.
Right.
Because, his other loss, he took a brutal beating from Max for 5 rounds or whatever, too. So I don't want to see that again for Brian's sake. But that being said, a matchup with Yair could be exciting just because they both are, kind of wild and could be explosive. So
you mentioned a name there too that I kind of forgot about, Zabit. That's an interesting one because he's a guy that maybe if they don't want to do Holloway 3, he could slip right in there actually, and that could be an opponent for Volkanovski. I'm not saying that's where I'd go, but I could definitely see with the timelines, maybe they don't match up, they could plug that fight in there. And I'll throw a wild card out there too. Henry Cejudo. It's fascinating to see a guy going up a weight class after he went out, and he is closer to size than Volkanovski. And I know that's why he wants that fight. I think Volkanovski just wipes the floor with him. But, and that's no disrespect to Cejudo. I just think you're talking about 2 very skilled fighters at different weight classes, and also one's been inactive. So, but yeah, I don't know, Sabit. That's an interesting thing you brought up, though.
Sabit, I don't know if when's his last fight. You know, I feel like I heard that he was trying to retire at some point because he's had some lasting injuries or he can't get healthy or something like that. I don't know if he's quite at that level. I know he's looked good, but he needs to beat, a top level opponent before he's getting a shot at Volkanovski.
Sure. Maybe Ortega.
Yeah. Cejudo is an interesting matchup. I'm not a Triple C fan, really. I don't think he beat DJ in that second fight. So, and all his fame and shit is coming from that. After that fight, though, he looked phenomenal. Like his stand-up was like karate style stand-up, and he's looked really good. I think he could pose some problems if he can take Volkanovski's shots. He would have the speed advantage, and Volkanovski's a good wrestler, but he's not stopping Cejudo's gold medalist takedowns. So if he wanted to get it to the ground, I think he has the best chance, and his speed would, keep him safe in the stand-up possibly. So it's a fight I'd definitely pay money for.
All right. Now that co-main event, Stefanko versus Murphy. Valentina puts it on Murphy. Clinic takes her down, beats her up, and then finishes finally. I believe it was round 3. Not a lot really to say here in terms of that fight. Valentina continues to dominate. When I look at potential opponents for Valentina, it's hard. Like, it is super hard. Like, I almost think, like, at some point we're going to have her and Nunes fight a third time, despite the fact she's lost that twice, because it's like they're the two best female fighters out there. Yeah. As far as Murphy goes, she could be an interesting opponent. Maybe another woman who lost in this fight, Cynthia Calvillo, and maybe they could do something there. And the timeline would match up. That could be a fun little fight. I like Cynthia Calvillo. She had a tough night, but this could be both of them coming off a loss. Could be an interesting fight. But yeah, Shevchenko, other than Nunes, I don't know. I mean, you can start looking at other people in that division that are young and up and coming, but they're not ready.
No, nobody's gonna beat her.
Yeah.
I like to see Calderwood versus her. I don't think that it goes too much different, but stylistically, another just tough girl that probably gets beat up by Shevchenko, but no one's.
She probably deserves a shot.
Yeah.
We got now. Yeah.
She should have had a shot before, and then she did the UFC a favor, took a fight, and lost that fight, so she lost her shot. So I think just give her a shot.
And Calvillo and Murphy, I think that's
I think that's a fair matchup.
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty competitive in that division for the most part.
Right.
I'll get to that fight later too when it draws. So I have some thoughts about her. Now, Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz, fun fight. Nick did not look. He looked old to me, but he also looked like a guy that could still put that volume on against Robbie Lawler, who's also a little up there in his career too. But Robbie, I don't want to take anything from him too because he looked good.
Right, he's putting good pressure on him too.
Yeah,
with all that volume, also.
100%. So I like what Lawler did here, and it's funny when I was looking at potential matchups for both these guys, I came up with the same name. Jorge Masvidal. I think he makes a good potential matchup for Robbie Lawler. or Nick Diaz. If Nick's going to stick around, it's a great money fight. It's clear the fight Masvidal would probably want of the two. But Robbie Lawler is also that old G, and I'm looking at like, okay, who are guys that, similar, that's been around for a while, that, he could have a fun fight with. Masvidal would probably be that guy. I think Masvidal wins both those fights, but it could be entertaining.
I think Lawler has a shot at beating him. It's hard to say with Nick how much of that was ring rust and how much of that is father time catching up with him. But like he looked slow, he looked old. He's still Nick Diaz, so he could still fight. But didn't look like he wanted to. Very much like from his walkout all the way through the fight to where he quit. I saw people saying he didn't quit. If you say when the ref tells you to get up and you say no, that's quitting. So yeah. I don't care. He's a Diaz brother. He's earned the right to quit or whatever you want to say. He quit. So
that's what happened.
I don't want to be reading trash online about how he didn't quit. He quit.
Yeah.
So
and he didn't put
said
up
it all week. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
he said all week that he didn't want to be in there. He didn't know why he was fighting Robbie Lawler. So it's understandable to not have the motivation. He thinks he's supposed to be in there with Usman. So Usman would have smashed that Nick Diaz. So now, with that being said, does Nick get up for the fight a little bit more, train a little bit harder, actually cut weight for the fight? You see a different Nick Diaz, I'm sure, but that Nick Diaz that we saw on Saturday gets smashed by Usman. Yeah. Stand up. He wouldn't even have to take him down. He beats him standing up.
I don't see a Nick Diaz that's just super motivated to fight.
Me either.
Yeah, maybe that was a difference. Maybe if he was just super motivated just to fight, and that's what he wanted to do, and we saw him in that shape. Clearly, he's got a skill level still. That was what was on display there, despite the fact his reactionary time was. He just has this precision and this volume. So I would think an in-shape Nick Diaz, hungry to fight, could be something to watch out for, but that's not what we saw.
I think I'd like to see that Masvidal fight. There's a story there.
Yeah,
it's a good payday for both guys. Maybe do that fight and then retire. I don't want to see his decline.
Another fight that would be interesting. I'm sure it's not going to happen, but him and Conor, honestly, when Conor comes off the knee injury, because it's two big names and both have declined, and Nick has a size advantage, but Conor would probably be faster. So I don't know. I'm sure it would create buzz. I'm sure for a pay.
Sure. Would probably sell more. That'd probably be the highest grossing pay-per-view of all time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I'd have to be at 170 because
can't see
Conor balloon up anymore. He can just get
he's not going to wait.
Yeah,
Conor might do it, but
yeah.
All right. Curtis Blades, Rosenstruck. I got Blades as far as his next fight. I'd like to see him fight. Let's talk about the fight for a minute. Blades dominated, took him down. Rosenstruck landed that knee and, of course, closed up his eye. But
he looked like a 1980s monster.
He did.
In a horror movie.
He did. He did not look good. But I think Blades clearly, he does belong. He made some call outs, and I think one of them was Stipe. I think Stipe would be a fun fight. I'd like to see it. I don't know if Stipe wants that fight. I think Stipe might just be waiting around until he gets that world title shot again.
Or Jon Jones.
Yeah. Or Jon Jones, yeah. We'll talk about that later, see how that's going to go down. But I think Blades and Stipe, if the UFC had their way, that would be a fight they probably wouldn't mind making, and I think it'd be entertaining. As far as Rosenstruck goes, I know he's lost a few now, but assuming he's going to be around for a while, it's heavyweight division, and Blade's the top guy. I'd like to see him in there with Derek Lewis. He's a little more technical than Derek Lewis. He hits really hard, and those are the guys that kind of give Derek some trouble. That being said, Derek has that ungodly power, and he could definitely turn Rosenstruck's lights out. So, what do you think? I mean, those potential matchups.
The matchups, yeah, those work for sure. I'd like to see. I don't think we'll see Curtis and Stipe for the reason that you said. Stipe is sitting for that title shot, or Jon Jones payday. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure who we'll see him against. Curtis might sit for a while too. I mean, his face looked pretty fucked up. So, yeah. That being said, his stand-up looked good in this fight. Like, he was in and out, quick. Yeah, he had a good jab. It wasn't his stand-up that got him that, broken orbital or whatever he had. It was going in for the takedown and catching that knee, like you said. So, if that keeps improving, but he relies on his wrestling still, because he's the best wrestler in the division. So, yeah, rely on that wrestling. But you have the ability to do stand up to give people something else to worry about. He's not far off from a title shot for sure.
It's funny because he's got the 2 losses to Francis. Francis caught him the second time, and the first time I think it was like a doctor stoppage, and then the fight Blades was winning. Cut. Yeah, but if you look at Blades, like, man, he's capable of beating anybody at heavyweight. It just comes off like he's really just that good. I know Lewis caught him once too, and there's that danger when you go that takedown. But like I feel like Blades would be the favorite if those 2 fought again. And like I'm not going to favor him over Francis, but he's definitely capable of, I feel like, beating anybody. Although Francis is a guy that also we're seeing to keep improving too. As long as Francis keeps improving, well, that could be a nightmare for anybody.
That's the thing about the heavyweight division. Unfortunately for Curtis, the best man does not always win in that division, because anyone can knock anyone out with one shot. So he's been unlucky with catching those shots.
Yeah, I think it was Freddie Roach, the famous boxing coach, would say about Dante Wilder. Like, they got that eraser. They can fix all those mistakes.
That's right.
Now, Jessica Andrade and Cynthia Calvillo opened up the card. Andrade got the finish. I thought she looked really good. She's always got that power in that division. And she's been at every women division, which is kind of interesting too, except for like featherweight. But she's fought at bantamweight, she's fought at flyweight, and she's even got as far as down at strawweight. I already said I kind of like to see Calvillo maybe fight Murphy next. But as far as Andrade goes, it's interesting. I could maybe see a fight with her and another top fighter in this division. Maybe a Calderwood, like a name you talked about, fighting for the title potentially. But, that could be another name for her. But also, like, I could see her going back down to strawweight if Rose wins, and there's a trilogy fight there in the making. Like, I don't think they're going to put her and Zhang again after Zhang knocked her out like in 90 seconds. So if Zhang wins, I don't think that fight's going to necessarily materialize. But I could see a Rose trilogy fight possibly in the works for her.
Yeah, she might get a shot at Valentina for all we know, because they're scrambling to find something interesting for her. So
yeah.
I think that's probably more likely for Andrade.
Haven't they fought once before though? There's Valentina.
Yeah, they fought, but there's just nobody out there.
Right.
So, she probably poses the biggest danger to Valentina at this point, I would imagine.
Yeah,
just
the
because
power.
of her power, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I don't know what'll be next for her. That's not a bad shout though. Going down and trying to get that belt off Rose if Rose still has it. So, that's possible.
Now, one fight I actually did have written down here, but I just want to talk about it anyway. Merab and Maurice, excellent fight. You had told me I
called it.
Yeah, round one was like the round of the year, and then like you said, he was gonna maybe have some problems, but he was gonna eventually break Maurice, and that's exactly how that fight went down. Without looking at the bantamweight division in front of me, I know that they're talking about Aldo and Font. I was going to mention that later. I'd like to see, and I didn't put much thought in this. Maurice, I don't know if he's going to get cut at this point, too. But I'd like to see Merab versus Dominic Cruz.
Ooh. I don't know what Dom's ranked. I think Merab needs a top 5 guy.
I feel like Cruz has got to be there around there.
I don't know. I kind of want to see Cruz and Sugar Sean. So I'm kind of hoping that fight materializes.
Stylistically, it'd be fun.
Yeah. As far as Merab, I don't know where he goes from here. He's not going to fight Aljo, so maybe he ends up with the TJ fight. I don't see TJ taking that. He thinks he deserves a shot. He deserved a shot immediately at the belt. So I don't see him taking it, but...
So the new rankings are out. I actually just looked at it now. I didn't know they had come out today, but Merab is actually number 6 now.
Okay.
And the only people in front of him are Aldo, Font, Sanhagen, Dillashaw, and Nguyen. All have fights with the exception of Dillashaw, who's hurt. So looking at that, the people behind him, Cruz is 11. I would say you're looking at Cody No Love. Or maybe Frankie Edgar might be an interesting fight there, too, because of Frankie's cardio, wrestling, and it could be fun. And it's a name. So, Merab could fight a name. I think that's really what he's going to have to do.
Yeah.
Or he plays the waiting game. But Merab
he beats both of those guys, I think, unfortunately.
I think, because of his ability. He's just that grinder, right? He's just going to be,
nobody can stop his takedowns. He's relentless with them. So,
do you think he's
stop the first one? He's going to get you eventually.
Do you think it's going to be a situation where he's getting so good, it's only going to be the elite bantamweights that could probably handle him? We're talking the all around guys like Dillashaw, Sanhagen.
I'd like to see Aldo would be good because his stand-up is so good and his takedown defense is good. Maybe could hurt Merab because obviously Merab can be hurt, although I don't know if he could be finished. He could be hurt, but Frankie in his prime might have been a really good matchup, so maybe we'll see a Frankie.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards right now. It's a Frankie. I'm sorry, a little distracted. I wanted to talk about Dan Hooker a little bit too, because I like Dan Hooker. He got the win. That was one fight I actually didn't get to see. I know you said he used his wrestling. Yeah, which is great.
Surprising.
He's adding stuff now. And I'm just looking at these rankings here, and I don't think I want to see him fight Islam Makhachev right now. All the guys in front of him, Dariush, he's not going to get.
That's who he called out, I think. He called out Dariush, which is a tough fight. Nobody's calling out Dariush.
No.
He can do it everywhere.
Gaethje and Chandler got a fight coming up. Poirier is obviously going to fight Oliveira at some point. So I think he's another one. He might be looking to fight someone behind him. He's not getting Conor. Dos Anjos, I think, is booked.
He just pulled out of the fight against Makhachev.
Oh, okay.
He's hurt. So
okay.
I mean, Hooker's game. He might fight Makhachev.
He might. It'd be an interesting fight.
That's tough. If he wins that fight, I'd say you're shooting him pretty close to the top there.
Mm-hmm. Ferguson would be a fun fight too, but Ferguson's had so many tough losses recently. I don't know if that's where they'll go. Gregor Gillespie could be a fun fight. That's a one that could be a tough fight for him because of the wrestling. But Hooker's improving on his wrestling, and his striking is probably a lot better than Gillespie. That could be a fun, dangerous fight for Hooker.
Yeah, tough fight for. I mean, Gillespie's tough for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
There are no easy fights in that division, though.
No, there's not.
In Hooker's game, he'll fight whoever, I feel like. So hopefully the UFC gives him a favorable matchup. I know that City Kickboxing is looking to move to America, so he might be shelved for a little while just while they are trying to get that all situated. So it might just be he sits. And something else might open up.
It's the fun fights that were made recently too. Rob Font, Jose Aldo, we were just talking about. Corey Sandhagen is now stepping in for Peter Yan. Bantamweight division, a lot of movement in that division right now. A lot of big fights.
It's a top division. That's might be the most exciting division right now.
Yeah. What do you think now? Out of these two fights, I feel like I know the answer, but which fight are you most excited for?
Peter Yan and Sandhagen.
Yeah.
I'd like to. So obviously, when he fought TJ, I'm a big fan of TJ, but I'm also a big fan of Corey. So TJ's hurt. Corey's getting an opportunity. Hopefully, is this going to be for like a interim belt?
Interim belt.
Okay, so
which is deserved. This is a fight that should be for an interim belt.
Yeah. So in an ideal world, I don't dislike Peter Yan. He was beating the shit out of Aljo, and he should still have the belt. But Corey and Aljo's fight, Corey just got caught early. It was unfortunate. It could happen to anyone. I'd like to see them actually fight. So Sandhagen has the skills to beat Peter Yan. He has the reach and
all around.
Yeah, and he has the fighter IQ to know that he's going to need to use that reach and stay out of Yan's power. So I give him a good chance. Probably see a few flying knees. And his ground game is unique and underrated, I think. So I think it ends up being a stand-up fight, and I'm pulling for Corey. I think he'll probably win.
Interesting, man. I don't know. I have a tough. Jan's been very impressive to me, but we'll see. I feel like he's the rightful champ too. I mean, I know what happened, but I'm just saying when you talk about who was the better fighter that night, it was Jan. Okay, so that being said, Font Aldo, I'm sure we'll talk about this fight when we get close to it. I think it's in December. Who you favoring right away out of that? I feel like it's a very good matchup because Aldo is like shown that he's still good enough that he can beat almost everybody but that tippy top. But Font is kind of showing us now that he's like getting to that tippy top.
He's peaking, yeah.
Yeah.
Aldo's had a resurgence, though. Like, you know, he looks years younger. I mean, he's really not that old. He's in his mid-30s, right?
Yeah.
He just has been around so long, you think he's so old.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a lot of wars and stuff, but he wears it well. So, this really could be either guy. It's whoever shows up looking their best on that night, I think.
I agree. I could see either one of them getting a stoppage too. Like
it'll be a fight of the night, I think.
Yeah, it'll be fireworks. All right. Let's talk a little boxing for a second over the weekend. Yusuke? Is that how you said your son? Usyk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beat Anthony Joshua for the heavyweight championship of the world. I know you watched the fight. I'm gonna let you comment a little more on this. I just want to say, I think I mentioned this in a text that I remember there was some discussion about who was the best heavyweight when I started getting back into boxing, and it was like a 3-person race. It was like Wilder, Fury, and Joshua. And at that time, everybody said because Wilder had been gone. Fury had been gone for so long that he probably wasn't going to be able to beat Wilder, and he was probably the odd man out. And what happened was Fury basically put a clinic on Wilder in a fight we all thought he should have won. It was a draw. Then they have a rematch down the road, and he finished him. Joshua, in the meantime, lost to
Andy Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz, yes. And he got stopped. Then he comes back and he wins a close technical fight that he didn't fight. Wasn't the most exciting, but he did what he had to do to win. And now he just lost his title again. So I feel like, man, as far as that 3-person race we're in, I feel like Fury can kind of hold his head up high right now.
Yeah, I think he's the best of the three of them. I think so. Wilder has changed camps, right?
Right.
So we're not really sure exactly what we're gonna see.
And we've had time now.
Yeah.
Too. Right.
He still didn't process the loss very well, so I'm not sure where he's at mentally. Skills wise, Tyson should beat him again. But as we were saying with Freddie Roach, Wilder has the eraser, so he put Fury down twice in that first fight. He could knock him out in this third fight. I don't think he does. I think Tyson. I hope Tyson wins again. That being said, it doesn't matter who he fights after that because he's going to walk through Anthony Joshua from what I saw of that Usyk fight, and Usyk is like 5'10" or something, or 5'8" or some shit like that. Tyson is 6'9", and he can do every style of boxing that you need. If you need him to be the power puncher, he can do that, although that's his weakest part. But his boxing skills are amazing. His footwork is amazing. His head movement is amazing. His jab is amazing. So Usyk is a very technical fighter, but he's just too small and he's not well-rounded enough to be a Tyson. That being said, I'm hoping. So AJ came in the lightest he's ever been for a fight, I guess. I think, and I talked about this with my buddy when we were watching the fights. I think that was a mistake. He played right into Usyk's hands by trying to outbox him. Usyk was the cruiserweight champion. AJ's naturally a bigger fighter, and I understand wanting to have the speed to keep up with Usyk, but AJ's done some of his best work bullying his opponents. This seems like a prime example of a fight he should just go in and bully the smaller guy and knock him out. Just come in heavy and powerful and knock him out. And I think that, his team is smart. They'll do that. He'll come back in and he'll win his belts just like he did against Andy Ruiz, because he has an instant rematch clause, which I assume they are going to act on.
What's funny, as soon as you said that triggered, I remembered with Luis. He came in light for that fight. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He came in light for the rematch.
Yes.
And that worked there, but that was probably because he needed to do that because he wasn't going to be able to bully Luis. So maybe it was just something where he was getting comfortable at that weight and he just kept it going. But obviously that was probably not the way to go about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Look forward to seeing those fights in the future, see what happens. We'll finish up. Jon Jones arrested. That's why I was looking. I want to pull this up here. I want to make sure I got this right. He was charged with misdemeanor battery, domestic violence, injuring and tampering with a vehicle. I think he was also resisting arrest.
So the tampering with the vehicle is a felony in Nevada. So, obviously the domestic violence thing is his fiance.
Yes.
People can read about it, but she ended up with the police found her with a bloody lip and blood all over her sweatshirt. She didn't want to talk about what happened, or said she didn't notice it, or something like that.
She said something about she got her hair pulled, but that was it. She was kind of a little right. She wasn't very committed to
John said he didn't know anything about it as well, and then when he was arrested, he resisted and smashed his head into the police car. That was what the felony was. So I mean, I assume his fiance is afraid of him. He's a monster, Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, Jon Jones is a piece of shit, garbage human being. Should be left in a cell to die somewhere. I don't want to see him in the UFC. This is going to say a lot about Dana White. I don't want to hear that he, is in some counseling group and he's praying a lot. We already have Greg Hardy. We don't need this to become a thing with MMA fighters.
And I will
Jon
say
Jones has had enough chances, so fuck him.
And I will say this too with Greg Hardy, at least. Greg Hardy was in another sport, and he did go to counseling and stuff, and did eventually, and he hasn't been arrested since. And and I'm not sticking up for Greg Hardy, but I'm saying when you compare the two, it's like that's not the case with Jon. Jon is just continuously messed up. And honestly, like for the people that are close to this man and know this man, like sounds like he needs help. It sounds like he needs like somebody, because it's like we're not his friends, so we don't care. We're just saying this guy's a piece of shit. It's whatever to us. But like for the people that do know him or close to him and see something good in him, like I would want to get him out of this sport. I would want to do something with him and like try to save him, because it doesn't sound like this is good for him.
He strikes me as the kind of person that doesn't listen to advice. So he's gonna have to be one of those like drug addict people that has to hit a rock bottom to actually make changes in his life. From the outside, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard this. I don't know if I sent it to you guys or not, but there was something. We'll see what Dana's gonna do. There's a court case that's going on right now over some fighters that were talking about the way they were handled with injuries. The UFC has a monopoly and stuff. I think Gilbert Melendez was involved, and there was a recording that came out, or a text message of Dana talking to Lorenzo, and basically saying Dana talking about, "Yo, Lorenzo, that was great. We fucking, no fucking mercy. That was some gangster shit right there, where they muscled out another promotion and got the fighter underneath him and stuff like that. Yeah, cutthroat business. I agree." And I was like, so when you see those type of conversations, it doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's going to be worried about, how we're going to do. I think he's just going to try to make the big money fight. If anything, I say he's going to try to probably rush Jon Jones in there as quickly as possible, just so
Before
he
he
can
fucks up even more.
fucks up even more and gets one more fight out. He's just gonna hope he loses, so he doesn't have to. Yeah.
I don't know, with cancel culture these days or whatever.
True.
How many chances does John get before somebody catches on and starts, people
Seeing
start
the
really
history.
going after the UFC? So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big fuck up. You can't be hitting women. So,
right. Yeah.
You're
I
a
agree.
professional fighter. You're a weapon.
Mhm.
It's bad enough.
And there was talk,
circumstance.
I think last year or year before, he was manhandling some waitress or at a strip club or something like that too, where he had kind of choked her. So this is not like, there's been stuff like this before too. So
it's a race between him and Connor to be who can be the biggest piece of shit, and Jon Jones has now taken the lead. So for now,
right, yeah, he had lost.
Connor will see this, and he'll escalate. So,
well, I'd like to end it on a positive note, but I think we talked about all the fun.
Fuck Jon Jones. That's positivity for you.
But it was a hell of a weekend for fights. Actually, what's going on this weekend? Any fights this weekend here?
Oh yeah, Kevin Holland's fighting this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Fighting Chris Dawkins' younger brother, Kyle Dawkins.
We'll talk about this a little bit.
Does not fight like him at all.
No, I saw that Kyle is
submission artist.
Yeah, he's had 3 fights in the UFC. 2 he lost by decision, and 1 he won by decision. Before he was in the UFC, he was 9-0.
Yeah, he was undefeated.
Yeah, so this is a big,
with 8 submissions,
big fight for him.
I think he was 9-0 with 8 submissions. Is that what it was? Maybe.
You are correct. 8 submissions. Yeah. So we'll see how he does in those bright lights. Kevin Holland, we know, usually does pretty well. Like, he just doesn't care. But he's a guy's submission expert. Is he good at wrestling though?
They're not doing Kevin Holland any favors. He made him all that money during the pandemic, and now they're giving him all these ground people. He's got to be like, what the fuck, man?
Well, based off of like my knowledge of like Kevin Holland, I'm gonna pick Holland here. I have not seen Kyle enough, but we got Brazilian Cowboy Alex Oliveira versus Nico Price. That's a fun fight.
Oh my god, fireworks! If that's not fight of the night, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Nico on that one. I think I think he hits a little harder.
Yeah. I think that he's better at managing the chaos too. Cowboy just throws himself into whatever chaos is coming, and he'll get clipped. But I think Nico's a little bit better at existing and doing his business in that chaos.
Misha Shirkinov and Krzysztof Jacko too. That's another fun,
also a good
heavy-handed fight. Yeah. I'll lean towards Misha Shirkinov on that one. I'll say like maybe because I feel like I've seen some more submissions out of him. I think they're both heavy-handed, so I think Misha may be just a little more well-rounded. But that's a pick-em, I think.
Yeah, I think that could be a very close fight as well, but I'd go with Misha Shirkinov.
Aspen Ladd and Macy Chazan, 2 young women going at it. I feel like Ladd, I think she's a little more skilled out of the 2, but Macy is bigger. She was the one that was in the Ultimate Fighter at featherweight, I believe, at one point. But I think Ladd's had a little more experience out of the 2. I have to look that up.
I think they both only have 1 loss.
Yeah, Macy's 7-1, and Aspen Ladd is 9-1. And her loss was a TKO to Durandamine, where she got caught.
Yeah.
So I like Ladd though. I think Ladd. I don't know. I think that Durandamine fight she was not ready for that fight yet. That was too big of a fight for her at that point in her career.
I think she's another fighter where her evolution is like big leaps between each fight. I do think this fight is probably a pick-em fight, though. They're pretty evenly matched. I'm pulling for Ladd. I like her.
Same. I'll say she grinds out a decision. And main event, Thiago, Santos, and Johnny Walker. Fun fight. Santos has had some injuries. And if he wasn't had those injuries in the past and stuff too, I would probably just pick Santos in this because I just said experience. And I haven't seen a ton of evolution on Johnny Walker's part. He's just more of like a balls to the wall. Why he has a shot at winning and why this will be a fun fight. But I'm going to say Santos is still the overall better fighter. So I'm going to go with Thiago, but I wouldn't be surprised if Johnny Walker can catch him.
Yeah, I agree. So since Santos got hurt, I know he's had one fight. I don't know if he's had one or two, but he didn't look super good in the fight I remember seeing him back in.
That was against...
That could be ring rust also.
Alexander Rakic.
Yeah, Rakic. Yeah.
Rakic, yeah.
Did he get finished in that fight?
Decision. Before that, his losses were to Glover and Jon Jones.
Right, Glover.
Glover had actually choked him out. So, which is impressive too.
Yeah, no shame in losing to Glover. He's been amazing lately. So, that Rakic fight, he should beat Rakic. He is skilled enough where he should be beating Rakic. But everyone has off nights. Johnny Walker, ever since he was doing that celebration and hurt his shoulder, has not looked the same.
He lost to Corey Anderson. He got TKO'd, and then he got lost a decision loss to Krylov, and then he beat Ryan Spann. And I want to say that was interesting because I want to say he had some trouble in that fight. He does KO him, but I think it was one of those fights that he got rocked a few times too, and it was going to be like his third loss in a row. But then he eventually, he caught him and might have saved his job in the UFC. That being said, he's had some time off since then, though. That last fight was September of 2020. So
I don't see him doing anything different. Like you said, I think he's going to come in, do some crazy shit so he could catch Santos, but I think Santos should win, and he probably should knock him out later in the fight because Johnny Walker's going to run out of gas with all that explosive movement he's doing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, should be a fun card. We'll look forward to that. Glad we'll end it on that note, a little more positive. All right. I think that's it. You got anything else you want to add?
Nope. Enjoy the fights.
Enjoy the fights.